Flat selected. Screen recording button. App switcher. Creatures such as close activate default. Creatures such as strolling through the final airlock. You feel satisfied that the facility is in order. The spacesuits are starched. The moon rocks are neatly arranged, and you personally checked that every stateroom is in perfect condition. Twice. Tomorrow's going to go great, and you're finally off the clock. You look back one last time anyway. Time between tour stays always make you nervous. It feels difficult justifying your non-existent workload while everyone else still has regular maintenance duties. Compounding the lull in responsibilities has been the temptation of finishing the final level of creatures such as we. Will you wipe out the last of the traditionalists, or will Lores elude your grasp at the last minute? Will you and Elegy have a happily ever after? The anticipation is giddily maddening. You hear chatty banter as you approach the passageway to the crew common area and laughter as you pass it. You hurry along. You're about to save the day, be the hero, put everything together. You wish life was that simple. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 4. You enjoy the escapism. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 4. Checked. You just enjoy experiencing the story. Radio button. You can't wait to launch right in. Radio button. Unchecked. Next. Button. You close your eyes and brush your teeth with the smallest dab of toothpaste, thinking on the digital world, where the colors are sharp, your purpose is clear, your name respected, and you never have to deal with annoyances like cramped quarters, monthly bone treatments, or strict water restrictions. You rinse with the smallest swig of water you can manage and wipe your face with astringent. You set your walkie-talkie down on a nearby drawer, and lean back against the chair backing at the foot of your bed. You close your eyes as creatures boots up. The loading music alone just melts the mundane away. It's delicious. Your ashen undead avatar walks towards the ruble as your ghost companion Elegy scouts ahead. Your ashen undead avatar walks towards the ruble as your ghost companion Elegy scouts ahead. These ruins are all that's left of your former base, a casualty to the crusade of traditionalists and internal treachery. Elegy perks at something, then flits back and enters your body. The screen sparkles blue and the GUI updates as your powers mingle. Thanks to heightened senses, you are now aware of the nearby enemy guard. The first one is always the easiest, of course, but the combat will cascade into a heavy hack and slash. This is going to be fun. What's your preferred combat style? Guns, radio button, checked, 1 of 4. Stealth melee, radio button, guns, radio button. Check, stealth, biting and clawing, radio button. Check, channel ghost powers, next, button. You propel your avatar faster than physically possible, bounding toward the target on all fours. She sees you coming, and hits an alarm. She reaches for a weapon next, but it's already too late. You leap into the air as your character's maw and claws are magically enhanced. You tear your target apart with visceral power. Elegy delights with your character at the ruthlessness. You progress through the compound, dispatching more and more guards. You pass piles of undead corpses and ectoplasmic ash, evidence of their cruel conquer. You will make sure this never happens again. Your mastery of the controls is an unstoppable force that leaves none alive. And then, in a flurry of magically enhanced efficiency, you are there, the command center. The final boss chamber. Your avatar's arrival interrupts a woman who is tapping away at a console from behind her personal glass blast shield. She turns to you as you enter, to give the speech and you smirk in preparation. I am sorry, so sorry for what you have become. I should have been better, I should have been stronger about stopping it. I failed you all. After my son, I realized how much time I had wasted with speeches, with words. I had to take real action. So I am here, saving humanity. You're given options on how to respond. Just attack. Radio button. Check. Taunt her. Radio button. Ask for sympathy. Radio. Offer to talk things out. Offer to join her. Radio button. Next. Button. Resolution. Revenge. You just know that her death will put things right, and the faster that happens, the faster you'll reach the positive ending. With supernatural speed and strength, you propel yourself up pipes, up scaffolds. Soon, she will be in reach. She hangs her head, and quietly pulls out a small remote device that she points at some nearby electronics. She presses a button, and strange lights and noises fill the room. They hurt your ears, so you turn the headphone volume down a bit. The ghost companion floats forward, howling in agony, and then freezes in front of your avatar. The noise, the light, it's Elegy's resonance frequency. But how? They're supposed to be so specific as to be impossible to discover. The traitor. It must be the traitor who gave Elegy's frequency to them. Oh man, you haven't found the traitor yet. They must be the final boss, or maybe a teaser for a sequel. Lores turns to you. You know what is happening. Turn yourself over, allow yourself to be destroyed. Turn yourself over, radio button. Attack Lores, radio button. Attack the equipment, radio button. Unchecked. Next, button. Attack the equipment. Check. Next, button. Without the additional help of your ghostly powers, you're as slow and sluggish as a regular, untrained human. Your avatar makes it a few feet before 2 monstrous guards pop out. You attempt to fight them, but your unassisted combat skills are subpar. You only manage to get 1 to half health by the time they beat you, stun you, and drag you over to a cage on the command of Lores. How brave of you, Ghost Whisperer. Pity you're no match for my Zorober's guard. Now tell me, didn't you ever wonder how we got in, how you managed to have such a knack for staying alive? Realization dawns on both yourself and your avatar simultaneously. The villain gestures at Elegy and states the obvious, it traded your life for information, the access codes, its resonance frequency. She chides, pity that you threw your end of the bargain away. Betrayal. Elegy betrayed everyone, for you. It's your fault, Elegy's fault. Your avatar turns to the ghost. Why did you do it? Radio button. Check. How brave of you, Ghost Whisperer. Betrayal. Why did you do it? Radio button. Checked. Check. I'm sorry it had to end like this. You shouldn't have done it. Radio button. I forgive you. Radio. I can't forgive you. Fuck you, Ghost. Next. Button. Your character's voice cracks and trails off in a sad whisper, but then the camera pans out and the audio fades. Something is wrong. The camera immediately zooms back in on Elegy, still vibrating, more furiously than ever. Is it? Lores leans towards it incredulously. A bright flash. Time warps to a near stop. For a brief moment, Elegy solidifies into a human shape and turns to your character. A sad, pale blue figure, it mouths. Sorry. And then closes its eyes. Time snaps back, and your companion condenses into a miniature black hole. Or at least, that's what the pulsing energy sphere pulling everything into itself reminds you of. Your avatar's body ragdolls against the side of the cage. The guards are sucked in. Loris is pulled towards it, but she has the fortitude to grab some nearby pipes and scream. But even the words are pulled into the void as the camera wipes to darkness. Over the darkness, with accompanying flash-forwards, your character narrates aloud what will happen next. They'll give me an award for this. They'll rebuild, put me in charge out of pity. But it won't mean anything. It won't mean anything without Elegy. I wish I could go back and redo it all. A cutscene triggers, focusing on your outstretching hands. They clench into a fist before the camera hands to catch the black hole thing as it dissipates. Then the game fades out to black and the credits start rolling. Wait, what? They can't have killed Elegy, just like that. You must have done something wrong. Something preventable. You've been a fan of the Collected Games studio for a while now, and you've never known them to pull a dick move like this. So what was it? I should have been better at combat, radio button. I should have sent Elegy away, radio button. I didn't say the right things to Loris, radio button. It was not preventable, radio button. Unchecked. Check. Next, button. Probably one of the designers really felt that this would be the most emotionally impacting ending that fit into some kind of hero's journey narrative. They probably went with it even if fans would hate it, to be true to the story. What a bunch of bullshit. Although, now that you think about it, why include the story mode? Maybe they realized that players would fuck it up and created this as an easy way to replay the content and unfuck yourself. You'll find the way to fix it. You've unlocked story mode, which you're more and more certain is a sign that replay towards the good ending is encouraged. You power down the device and push the computer back up against a wall. You get into the covers and turn it over in your head more. Maybe this internal conflict is the response that the designers wanted? But it doesn't feel satisfying, it doesn't feel right. You just wanted a good ending. As you velcro up your blanket, you wish that your scheduled internet browsing time wasn't a week away. You'd really like to look up the answer. Weather, now, rain stopping soon, expect, sleep until tomorrow, button. You wake up and unstrap yourself from the bed before stumble bouncing into the small bathroom. Your stomach is still in knots over that ending. It was a total existential punch in the gut, and now you're supposed to go out there and wow a bunch of snot-nosed tourists? You moan and stare into a mirror, really looking at yourself. Is this who you really are? A young, radio button, checked, 1 of 5. A 30-something, radio button. A middle, an older, radio, a near retirement, next, button. Other region. Creatures, home, back, creatures, East Asian, radio button, checked. West Asian, radio button. Middle Eastern, radio button, Northern African, radio button. Southern/Central African. Southern/Central American. Check. North American, radio button. European, radio button. Multinational, radio button. Other region, radio button. Next, button. Next. Person, radio button. Trans woman, radio. Trans, cis woman, cis man. Creatures such as we, cis woman, check. Trans, person, radio. Other gender, next, button. At this point in your life, you didn't think you'd be playing glorified tour guide on the moon, but at least you're good at it, and in a few years you'll be able to cash out. They pay pretty well for the isolation, tight living schedules, and the minor bone loss. You sigh into the mirror. New clients today, which is always a stressful unknown. You passingly wonder if you have time to go through character creation in creatures. But decide better of it. You can be patient, it's just one work cycle until you can game again. At any rate, you'd better get ready. You climbed in for a military shower, rinse, turn off water, suds up, then rinse again. A process that would be cold if the bathroom weren't equipped with a heater to keep you warm. As you lather up, you can't help but dwell on the ending of the game. It just seems so sudden, so without resolution. It's frustrating. You play games to have something happy and positive in your life. This was just depressing. You deal with that enough in real life, failure, death. So, why did they go with this ending? Why did they make a game that was unwinnable? They thought it was the most dramatic, radio button. It was a comment on death's inevitability, radio button. They want you to replay to get the better ending, radio button. I could have beat it if I was better at the game, radio. Next, button. I could have beat it if I... Check, next, button. The guards were just too tough, but if you'd practice, if you were better at the timing, better at the movement, you could have beat them. It's your fault. But, you can get better at it. You can replay the level and get the real ending. You rinse yourself off and step out to air dry in the warmth of the heater, still turning the ending over in your mind. Someone set out to make a game that was intentionally designed to put you through this kind of internal turmoil. Even if it's fixable, you sunk hours and hours into an experience that left you feeling depressed. That's not what you paid for. They should have written a better ending, radio button, checked, 1 of 4. Check. They should have balanced combat better, radio. Although, at least it was an ending that was actually interesting, radio button, unchecked. And maybe you'll get a better ending from replaying in story mode, radio button, next, button. I mean, there are endings that are meaningful and then there are endings that feel satisfying. And it's tempting to go for the meaningful ending, but it doesn't make for a good ending. Not when you get personally invested in the characters. Well, there must be a way to make it better. It will go better next time. You shake yourself out of the introspection and focus on the here and now, getting ready. It just seems so mundane. Doing the same thing day after day just to stay in place. Bending yourself over backwards for this endless stream of disaffected tourists. Does it really matter? Well, of course it matters. It matters to you, to them, and very much to Space Joy. Every day you bring your best. Every day you are your best. You glance over at the makeup box. As director of activities, the company prioritizes materials that make you look more professional. It's a privilege that many of your coworkers aren't afforded, so you're always split between not squandering it and not flaunting it. No makeup, radio button, checked. Natural tones, radio, natural tones, check. Exciting colors, extra flair, radio, next, button. It always feels a bit like doing art restoration. Just minor concealer to hide the flaws, highlights to emphasize the features that work, minor shifts in emphasis, but nothing too gaudy. The kinds of changes that you wish you could make in your own life. You look at yourself one last time in the mirror. You smile. Seeing yourself so put together helps reassure you. You're doing pretty well with your life when it comes down to it. Maybe you're not doing what you originally wanted, but your job's important to you. And you're good at it. One of the best. You adjust your hair, then head on out. Maybe this week will be better. Time to shine, button. You meet with a few stewards at the docking bay. You meet with a few stewards at the docking bay. They shy away from you, as always, but at least they still nod to acknowledge your presence. The facility shakes as the shuttle lands. Right on schedule, it's nice when there aren't any delays. The interior door starts its opening sequence. At the final click, you switch on that interstellar smile just in time to meet 6 new guests. There's something that feels familiar about them, but you can't quite place it. You launch into the prepared intro. I hope you are all ready for a fantastic week of leaving the mundane worries of Terran life behind. You are all now official astronauts, explorers, moonwalkers. They're the designers. The designers of creatures such as we. Also, flesh weavers, soul traffic, and ether wings. The backbone of Collecta Games. The people who screwed up their own ending. What are they doing here? Why would they come to the moon? To plan their new game? Hopefully it'll be better than creatures. At least it shouldn't be hard for them to get back on track. They've had such a great record in the past. Actually, it's really awesome to meet them. Radio button, check. They've been cool in the past, and they'll do better again in the future. Radio button, uncheck. That ending's still bringing you, but you're a professional. Radio button. You're actually still pretty sore about that ending. Radio button, uncheck. Next, button. Who doesn't make mistakes? Besides, it might still be your fault for just playing poorly. You can recover from it. Probably. But still, it's going to be really interesting having them here. After all the fun they've provided for you, you'll have a chance to return the favor. Someone other than the self-obsessed rockstar or pampered explorer. These are real people, real creators. You're going to be able to pick their brains, maybe even get a glimpse into the creative process. Maybe later you can ask them about the game, find out the easy way if you did something wrong. Or at least figure out what the hell they were thinking. The first guy pushes forward his ID with a small waving motion, triggering a realization that you've been drifting off. You blush deep red. This isn't the most professional first impression. And your coworkers are watching. You swipe through the list with one hand while you examine his ID in the other. You check his facial features against the ID. He responds to the examination by smirking into the exact chiseled grin pictured on his ID. Hazel eyes with darker skin, and black hair cut tight. He's somewhat heavy, but he carries himself well. You check off Andres Ingrid, lead designer, from the list. He pulls the card back and leans against the podium. I like your efficiency. Man, Space Joy really has it together. I like tight schedules. You have to be efficient up here. Radio button, unchecked, checked. In your head, unlike some companies. Radio button, next, button. Andres grabs onto your hand and shakes it firmly enough that you feel lucky that you take bone supplements. Oh, glad to hear it. I bet in order to get up here, you have to be the best of the best. Well, gift shop time. He peers in through the passageway entrance, shouting back to the rest of the group, hey, check it out. The original microtransaction model. It elicits a few chuckles, but they all seem a bit tired out. He hangs back at the entrance, waiting for the rest of the group to get checked in. The woman behind him sidles up to your right side. She has a bony, long face, with even longer, straight black hair. She looks over at your check-in tablet, sighs, then clicks her tongue in disapproval. You pause or finger over her name on the list and look up at her. She backs off immediately. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not you. I just did some work on the back end of that program, and you see that drop down. Well, I still don't think the GUI editors quite represented the functionality right. She blushes and pushes some of her hair in front of her face. Oh, sorry again. I just get wrapped up. She trails off. There's a hint of an Indian accent that matches her skin. What do you think they got wrong with it? Radio button, check. It's always tough handing off work. Radio button, glad to have. It must be frustrating, having someone mess up the system you're implementing. Radio button, next, button. She backs up and looks at you strangely. Oh yes, well, I suppose it is. Andres leans against the wall. She's a great perfectionist, really has an eye for that sort of thing. I'm lucky to know her. And what a math whiz. He waves her over and points towards the gift shop. She joins him and looks in. Interesting layout. An expensive centerpiece surrounded by the cheapest object in the shop. Must trigger a lot of impulse purchases. She trails off as the two of them step inside and get wrapped up in window shopping. A younger man steps forward and tilts his head into a sweetly disarming grin. He has a wiry frame and a smooth face, his dark skin mixed with an East Asian facial structure. This place is just gorgeous, but it must be rough having to deal with rich pricks all the time. You startle. You're not accustomed to that kind of cutting honesty from guests. You check off James Manley QA from the list. You can't cop to a sucky job. Well, you can, but you really shouldn't to a guest. It has its perks. Radio button, checked. It's definitely a great place to visit. Radio button, unchecked. Glad. Yeah, next, button. He nods his head and crinkles his mouth in a suppressed laugh. I get what you're saying. He starts to step away, then turns back to you. Hey, by the way, do most people usually jump around right away, or do they wait until they're alone? I'm just curious if we're following expected protocol or being ridiculously polite. But before you can even make to respond, he raises his hands in apology. Actually, I shouldn't hold up the line. You probably get jerks who do that all the time. I'll just wait. He walks off to the side and starts testing out small hops. An older woman approaches the podium next, first hair salted with grays, and a pale face without any makeup. Her dreamy smile evaporates into embarrassment. She doesn't have her ID out. She pats over her suit in a panic, and then backs off, waving ahead the next woman in line. Unfortunately, that lady is wrapped up in an electronic device, completely oblivious to the awkwardness unfolding in front of her. You clear your throat loudly. That doesn't get the second woman's attention. James looks up from his moon hops to watch the situation unfold, and you hear a, hopefully unrelated, burst of laughter from inside the gift shop. The woman finally finds her ID. Sorry, she grins sheepishly, I was just thinking about what sorts of ghosts might be found in a place like this, and got a bit lost in it all. Her accent is distinctly Midwestern. You check off Diana Thornhead writer from the list. James tries to reconcern himself in the jumping, but it's obvious that he was hoping for something a bit more exciting to have shaken out. I've often wondered what sorts of ghosts might be here myself. Radio, but you'll have to tell me their stories. Rick, glad to have you aboard. Yeah, ghosts aren't real. Radio, but next button. She smiles pleasantly at you, but her mind is already wandering. She tilts her head, fixating on something inside the gift shop, and moves around the podium in a path that does not match her gaze. You amaze at the fact that she doesn't bump or trip on anything. James attempts to wave her down, but she doesn't notice and enters the gift shop. James shrugs and then follows after her. Hey, Diana, how'd you like some armor made of moon? His voice trails off. The next woman is shorter and somewhat heavy-set. You feel she's Asian, perhaps Pacific Islander. She's completely absorbed in her device, the glare reflecting off her large glasses. You clear your throat a second time, more forcefully. She startles, putting the device into a pocket while sizing you up. You hear a faint mumbling, proportions and then nothing else. She adjusts her glasses and then belatedly catches herself, carried away there. Would you mind terribly if I sketched you? You smile politely at Wrench, art director, as you check her in. I'd be honored. Radio button, checked. 1. Only if my likeness isn't killed off. Radio button, glad to have you. Wouldn't that distract you from your work? Radio, glad to have you. Next button. She nods at you and steps aside. As she leans against a nearby wall, Ren glares at the last guy in line. He's been hanging back this whole time, and seems even now hesitant to move up. He gives Ren a half mile, and she quickly pulls her device back out and buries her face in it. You hear more laughter and chatter from the gift shop as the rest of the group pour out. The last guy seems to realize that he can no longer delay his check-in. He's pasty white, and slightly older, but built, with shoulder-length bleached blonde hair. You catch a glimpse of a white shell necklace under his spacesuit. He takes a deep breath and walks up. He stares past you awkwardly and breathes way too heavily. You follow procedure, despite there being only one person he could possibly be. Name? You cordially ask, attempting to get him to focus. He procures ID, affirming Grand Naro. Strange, he's not part of the development team. At least not that you recognize. Could he be a new addition? He leans against the podium and attempts to carry a conversation, running his fingers through sweaty hair as he fumbles out, and you are? You almost feel bad for the man as you both point to your name tag and say your first name aloud. Text field. Double tap to edit. Text field is editing. Insertion point at end. Cap T. Tag. Cap A. Cap A. Cap A. S. Toolbar. Next. All. F. D. S. S. D. F. G. H. H. Ashley. Ash. Toolbar. Ash. Ashley. Q. Double E. E. R. R. E. Double Q. Ashes. Asher. He leans. He's paid as text field. Next. S. Link. Image. Next. Asher. Text. Next. Button. His eyes flutter as what you say seems to barely even register. Asher. Did I get that right? His sweating intensifies. Yes, that's right. Radio. Check. Yes, good job reading. Rudely correct him. Next. Button. But by now he's lost his ability to focus on words. He staggers a few steps, then vomits a slurry of liquid. Much of it splashes onto the floor, but a good amount stains the expensive, company-owned shuttle suit. He compounds the stains by wiping his chin on the sleeve. The other guests drop their banter and stare at him, horrified. You glare at one of the stewards, who then drops what he was unloading to get some cleaning supplies. You turn your attention back to the sick man. Well, that explains that. This is not exactly the smooth check-in that you were hoping for. He continues retching, now spitting out clear liquid and streaming apologies between gasping breaths. He clearly needs someone to escort him to the med bay, but it'll also take some professional charisma to lift the gloom this incident will impart on the rest of the group. You take the immediate action of notifying the medical staff with your walkie-talkie, but now it's time to deal with the disaster directly. You set aside your own personal annoyances and focus on asserting yourself professionally. You weigh options, send him with the remaining steward, or escort him yourself. Escort the sick man, smooth things over with the main group, radio button, next, button. Smooth things over with the main, next, button. It's your job to deal with making sure that all the guests are comfortable, and there's nothing more discomforting than witnessing another person's distress. As another steward escorts Grant off, you address the group. While rare, it can happen that some people get an upset stomach on the trip over. It's definitely not the most fun way to start out a vacation, but we have the best medical facilities that money can bring over. I'll catch him up on the amenities later. Your feigned likeness is good enough to fool them. You're met with nothing more insidious than disaffected stares. Really, you have no idea why he got sick, and that is scary. All the precautions should have prevented regular motion sickness. But you need to stuff those doubts down and launch into the tour. Standard introduction, radio button, checked. Scientific introduction, brooding introduction, romantic introduction, next, button. Your smile returns, then slowly cement as you revert into your memorized speech. When the first person set foot on the moon, they knew it was the beginning of a new era, of a deeper connection with the rest of the universe. For the next few days, you will have a chance to recreate that. You will have the chance to see space as never before. The pre-rehearsed tone hopefully assures them that things are going according to plan. Next, you point to the gift shop, trying not to cringe at having to deliver Space Joy's mandatory money spiel. Most of you have already had a chance to check it out, but you can find pieces of the trip that you can make into your own personal reminder of your time here. For convenience, all the items in there are display only. You'll be able to pick up any purchases when you return Earthside. Even moon dust. You wink. Diana yawns while Sadri whispers to Andres about something from the shop. Ren tilts her game system at a strange angle as she taps and swipes at it. You relax a bit. They're fine. You just need to get through the rest of the tour. Technically, the first room you visit would be the med bay, but you know better than to follow on the tail of the sick guy. Where should you show them around instead? Common rooms, radio button, checked. Recreational activity room, their staterooms, radio button, checked. End the tour early, radio, next, button. You show them each to their individual rooms. The quarters are pretty tight, but you're still proud to let them know that they each have their own private bathroom. Everyone pokes around their rooms, but James pops back out almost immediately and inundates you with questions. I'm really curious how this is all feasible. How do you get supplies like food and water? How about the waste? And, I noticed that the beds were all singles. How do you accommodate couples? And what about you? Do you stay up here for years, or rotate out in monthly shifts? Everyone pokes around their rooms. Answer everything truthfully. Radio button. Check. Answer truthfully, glossing over stickier details. Dodge the personal questions. Dodge. Next. Button. You smile and take a deep breath. Well, we get regular shipments of food, and grow or synthesize our own. We recycle. You smile and take a deep breath. Well, we get regular shipments of food, and grow or synthesize our own. We recycle the waste through bacteria, plant, and bottom feeder farms. A few of the walls between rooms are retractable, allowing beds to join together and double room size. You take a break for air. He tilts his head. And what about you? What's your story? This a cool place to work, or not? You hold up a finger of patience, and as for me, I'm up here for 3 more years until I hit my 5-year anniversary and get retired out. He whistles. Whoa. 5 years. That's a lot for even a job back on Earth. He glances around as the rest of the tourists pile out of their respective rooms. Time to move on. You get the attention of the group. Well, shall we continue? Common rooms, radio button. Check. Recreation, their staterooms. End the tour early, radio. Next, button. You drag them past the open air locks that lead to the common areas, the meeting room, the observatory, and the museum. You describe each as you pass, but you always like to pause in the museum. It makes the tour feel more refined. Ren starts immediately snapping pictures of everything, while Diana traces her hands in the air above the old suits. James and Sadri laugh over a push-button activated replica of a moon overclaw. Andres walks around aimlessly. You can tell that he's already bored. Diana pulls you aside. Hey, these suits are all pristine. Don't you have anything old or tattered? Andres abandons his pacing to throw it. She shrugs her shoulders. We do have some distressed suits. What are you interested in the suits for? Check. We put a lot of effort into your safety here. Radio button. Lie. We've never had the kind of accident that would rip a suit. Next, button. Diana's eyes light up. Oh, well, I'm really fascinated by the bright colors on these older models. They remind me of the unrecoverable bodies on Everest. Andres scrunches his face in disgust. Diana nods placatingly. Oh yes, of course. Andres doesn't look like he's buying it. Time to move on. You get the attention of the group. Common rooms, dimmed. Radio. Recreational activity rooms, radio button. Check. Their staterooms, dimmed. End the tour early. Next, button. You lead them past the closed airlocks, describing the fun activities that will take place under Space Joy supervision, the gym and pool room, which will be filled with water by tomorrow, and the moonwalk prep room. You gesture to a window that shows off the brightly lit moonwalk area, and you take a break to let them crowd around and get their first real glimpse at a truly alien surface. It's a moment most tourists really get absorbed in, and almost everyone in your group clocks out with appropriately enraptured expressions. Ren, however, scowls at the view. I never realized that the dust was so reflective. There's no way you could make that lighting look good. She returns to her device, glancing up occasionally. Sadri jams her hair behind her ears in determination as she turns to Ren. I think that, well, technology makes up for what we can't do ourselves. Ren gives a wry smile. Yes, but how exactly does that happen? She turns to you. You must take photographs up here. How do you? I'm impressed that you noticed the glare. Radio button. Checked. We treat it like snow. The conditions are similar. Radio button. We run all shots through post-processing programs. We take 2 shots with different settings and merge the 2. Radio. Next, button. Sadri gestures towards you knowingly. Yes, that is because for most people, their brains just adjust to make sense of it. It is how you can wear colored glasses and become used to it. You know, metrics say that half the people don't even adjust their screen resolutions. Ren frowns. That kind of adjustment takes time. It also doesn't work when the objects on the screen are wrong, but your surroundings aren't. You can see the contrast. And people notice. Sadri rolls her eyes. Well, then, I say give people the idealized version. The fake one that works, even if it's not real. I'm sure you'll figure something out. You have the chipper to get everyone's attention. I'm sure you're all hungry, so let's have some real space food. You usher them into the brightly lit dining hall, and then dramatically reach for a nearby switch. Normally, we keep this lit with only minimal accent lights. You'll see why in a second. You flip the lights off, and, on cue, they all gasp at the glass ceiling above. In the darkness, the universe is beautifully lit unlike anything you can see on Earth. They remain fixated on the spectacle for well over a minute. This is the first group you've had in a while to actually take the time to appreciate and enjoy the amazing view. You even get swept up yourself, wiping away a tear. Just when you thought you'd gotten used to it all, the sheer beauty of the universe teases out from you the first real smile you've had all morning. Lunchtime, button. Come back in a few minutes to play the next part of Games folder. 724. Reach orientate 93% battery pack. Control center. Airplane mode. Low flashlight. Selected. Screen record.